Look at this. Gasoline burning some cars. Stuff is getting smashed. But you got random people just spectating. I want to go also show something else. Look at this guy. This is what I mean about LARPing. I don't know what side he is on, but look at this guy. You have people out there. You have all sorts of people out there. And none of them should be out there because none of them know the ramifications of what they're doing. Vigilante Williamson here with a very simple question. Why are we not allowed any nuanced discussion on anything anymore? Not only has everything become politicized, it has become radicalized, and people do not allow any nuanced discussion. This is not just a problem of the left, it's a problem of the right too, especially when it comes to this Kyle Rittenhouse situation. I've seen a lot of people try to turn this kid into a hero or a patriot just because he shot people, and that doesn't seem right. Neither does the mainstream media's attack and twisting of the truth. He was not a white supremacist looking to kill people. I think that is bunk, and I'll prove that in this video. And I also believe that he acted in self-defense. However, looking at the charges, that does not necessarily mean he won't face jail time, and I'll get into that as well. So I want to be fair. I want to provide nuance, and I want to provide as much context, and I want, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, to take in the facts and do independent research. If you disapprove of anything in this video, please put in the comments. Please like, dislike, tell me what you think. Like I said, I have a lot to get into, and I really want your feedback. This conversation is the only way we're going to move forward. So before I get into the charges that Kyle has, I want to provide context and nuance, because I think people on the right and left lack so much context because they put themselves in echo chambers, and I've been trying to, float around both to kind of get a lot of the nuance. So I've seen this video.
Trying to get Trump reelected? Are they trying to get Trump reelected?
This is a Papa John's.
I got a family to support. I got fucking kids to feed.
Hey, look, these people don't represent our movement.
Well, I'm sorry, but they're with you.
So, it's two things to note. It's the businessman who is probably a franchisee of that Papa John's, franchise owner of the Papa John's, or a manager at that Papa John's, who's just trying to feed his kids, who, for some reason, people think racial justice includes destroying this Papa John's. It doesn't.
What does that have to do with black people?
I'll keep intercutting that in because I don't know what that has to do with black people. And then I think the other thing to notice about this, the second thing to notice, is the young lady's response. This doesn't represent our movement. I think it's very important that people on the right realize that there are people who only believe that Black Lives Matter only intention is racial justice. You can give them all the facts you want, and some of them will actually listen to those facts. They don't understand them. They don't know. They've seen peaceful protests. Now some of them are turning around, but they've seen this said as peaceful protests. And quite frankly, some of them have tried to peacefully protest. This person's actually out there protesting. She sees this window get smashed up. I'm going to show more little elements of the protests and a little bit before the shooting happened. But you'll see people smashing cars. You'll see cars get lit on fire. She's out there in these protests. And she says that they don't represent her movement because that's genuinely what she believes. She's not lying. She's not a spin doctor on CNN. She's someone who is there who believes she's only there for racial justice because as far as she's concerned, she is. That's not what everyone else is there for. And that's why people are against BLM. I want people who are on the left to understand that. People are against BLM for the same reason that man is upset. His business doesn't need to be destroyed. That has nothing to do with racial justice. That's just intimidation. And you'll see some more of that. But let's get into these charges. The very first charge against Rittenhouse is the first-degree reckless homicide, use of a dangerous weapon. This is saying that Rittenhouse did cause the death of Joseph D. Rosenbaum recklessly, which show a disregard for human life. That's the charge, and has a 65-year maximum sentence if he is convicted. I actually do not believe he will be convicted of this charge, and I'll get into later in the video why I believe that. This is the charge which I think he'll have a lot of trouble with. This is first-degree recklessly endangering safety use of a dangerous weapon. Rittenhouse allegedly recklessly endangered the safety of Richard McGinnis. And who he is, I'll show in a video. But he's just a bystander. He is not someone who accosted Kyle. And because more shots were fired, and depends on who fired those shots, and it also depends on just the angle and what the cops believe, because depending on the angle, even though these shots that were intended and mostly hit, and I think all of them may have hit Rosenbaum, who I believe accosted Kyle and do a Molotov at him, as I'll show. But this guy, Richard McGinnis, as we'll show his testimony, he's just there. But we'll get into that later. Let's go through the rest of these charges. This is also the homicide charge against Anthony Huber. He was the skateboarder. He swung a skateboard at Kyle's head while he was on the ground. I believe that was self-defense. I'll show in the video as well. The fourth charge is attempted homicide. This is of Gage and Groosekrantz. I'm mispronouncing that name. I think this is really open shot. I think this is the simplest charge, and this one probably won't even make it to trial, because this guy actually said after he wished he would have killed him. He had a gun. I think that's pretty open and shut. Here's another charge he's going to have a lot of trouble with. Recklessly endangering the safety of use of a dangerous weapon. And this is an unknown male. When you shoot extra shots, and in this case, Kyle shot shots that were not intended or that did not necessarily hit someone that had accosted him. There was a crowd of people, as I showed in this video, showing the stream. Yes, there are agitators, but there are a lot of just spectators. There are a ton of spectators, and there are a ton of people, like I showed earlier, who don't really realize what BLM really is. Despite the fact that they're burning things, despite the fact that they're breaking things, they still don't get it, because they only see this racial injustice narrative. They don't really realize what's behind it. They don't really realize this group is using that as a shield. So they're recklessly endangering people that are just bystanders there because there are extra shots that didn't go for them. I don't know that he'll get off of that. I don't know that. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know either way. So to everyone who's encouraging him, calling him a hero, who signed a 17-year-old up for potential PTSD from this and potential jail time because of shots that didn't go to the people who accosted them, that just went into the air, and that police or whoever can say, hey, these charges recklessly endangered people, keep that in account. Remember that. Remember, these are human beings, right? And as I get into, Rosenbaum is a disgusting human being, right? I'm not going to necessarily cry over him, but there were other shots and they could have hit other people. They could have hit random people that weren't involved. The last charge, I think, may be open shut against Kyle. It's a 9-month charge, or a 9-month prison sentence. It's a misdemeanor, $10,000 fine. It's the least of these charges, but it is possession of a dangerous weapon by someone under 18. He is 17 years old. A little bit on the gun laws. It says possession of a dangerous weapon by anyone under 18 is a Class A misdemeanor, as shown in that charge. This is the statute. Defenses to the prosecution of the statute is target practice, member of armed forces or police in the line of duty, which he was not. I know he is a police cadet, but he was not in the line of duty. He was not sanctioned. And this is another one of my criticism against the whole situation. He is not a sanctioned member of a security force. He is not a sanctioned member of a military force. He's not a sanctioned member of a police force. He is a cadet. He had no authorization to be out there where he was. He was not out there with any help. and he was out there on his own, and he could have been killed and instead killed people and could have endangered other people. I do believe he was in self-defense in the shootings, but I do also know, and as I'll show, there are other bullets going other places. And I know this is a long video, but I just want to set the scene. He's not a member of the armed forces. He was not hunting. He was out there. He is not 18. I don't think he'll actually beat this charge. Yeah, Smith & Wesson 223. For anyone who wants to know, I actually had that wrong. Let's talk about who Richard McGinnis is. He's actually in this video. Richard McGinnis is right here, but this is the video.
Cameras, them is white boys. Yeah, that's Antifa, man.
So you see the Molotov thrown, and this is Rosenbaum. He runs up on him. Shots are fired. Another 3 shots. I don't know what gun. I don't know if that was a 223. I don't know if that was the first shooter. Speaking of which, let's get to this first shooter. I'm going to show a different angle, and you can see this first shooter.
Gun, baby.
You see that? That's the first shot. That's the first shot before Kyle does anything. We get that shot by that guy. And then the video show you this. Here are the other shots. So that was after the Molotov was thrown. Let's go back, because I was actually just focused on that, because you can see the Molotov thrown as well.
Orders you hear about yelling no cameras,
Let's
them
go
is
back.
white boys.
So you see this?
Yeah, that's Antifa, man.
Molotov stone. Look at the guy over here.
Got a gun, baby.
He shoots a shot. Kyle was running. So if you want to go back to where the other angle, let's go back to this other angle, because we have to get multiple angles. I'll get into this later, because I'll show a lot of the other just corruption from the BLM and show more that this is organized. So as this angle shows, I think you may even be able to see.
Antifa, man.
You see him throw the Molotov. That's the shot gets rang out. Saw the other angle. That's Rosenbaum getting shot. Those are 4 shots. Those are extra shots. I don't know who shoots those shots. And if you're wondering about Rosenbaum's womb, if I can find the article, see all these tabs up. So 1 shot was fired into his groin, fracturing his pelvis. Another shot to his back, perforating his lung and his liver. Another shot to his left hand, and a superficial wound to his left thigh, a graze to the right side of his forehead. So we know there are around 4 shots when Rosenbaum is up on him, and there's a chance that one of those shots could have went through. And then there's another 3 shots. We saw that there was another man with a gun. I think if you're better experts than me, there were comments in that video. There were people who thought there was 2 different guns shooting. I am not an expert. I want you to be a judge. But I saw a Molotov thrown. I saw another man shooting. In my book, he was justified for shooting Rosenbaum. And let me show Rosenbaum his history. Is this the one? Like I said, yeah. This is just what he did in Wisconsin. This is his charges. This stuff, I'm not going to cry for a guy like this. My point is that it's not always going to be a guy like this. And as I record this, there was a shooting in Portland. I'm recording this. I don't even know what date this is. I think it's the 30th. I think it's in the morning. It's taken me a while to even do this. It's been rough doing these videos. But someone else got shot. I think they were wearing a prayer hat or something like that. People are getting radicalized. And you can't always expect that you're going to get, I don't like talking ill of the dead, but this guy was a piece of dirt by the charges he was convicted on in his past. You're not always going to get people like that. I'll get into that later. But 4 shots. And this guy, Richie McGinnis, let's look at his testimony. This is a secondhand testimony. Is this the? Let me make sure this is it. Yeah, this is from the Daily Caller. We witnessed the Kenosha shootings. Here's what really happened. I'll have the link to everything I can in the video. This is from who is this from? Shelby Talcott. Richie said he saw what prompted the very first shooting. A verbal fight escalated as the victim tried grabbing the alleged shooter's rifle twice. The second time, Richie said The victim came very close to getting his hand on the man's gun, trying to grab it away from him. He may have actually made contact. It's unclear amid the mayhem. That's when the shooter fired. I see the shooter run away, and then I run in and provide medical aid, Richie tells me. What I didn't realize afterwards is the shooter ran around the car, which is what we see, stood behind me, and I screamed at him to call 911, which is also what we see. Not realizing he was a shooter, he runs away moments later after pulling out his phone. So that's what we see. Again, trying to get that. That's what we see. Look. That's him running around. This is Richie. And they drive Rosenbaum. You read that article. They drive Rosenbaum to the hospital where he dies. Kyle's calling 911. He's trying to call 911. Then he's going to run away. And then you see more to this reconstruction. Okay, now look at this. A lot of people have seen this. So this is when he falls. Everybody's encouraging him. So that's when he gets shot. And then that's the guy gets shot in his arm. So that, I think, is pretty open and shut to me. He was running away. He was trying to run away. Shout out to BG on the scene. That's obviously the source. He was trying to run away. He falls. The one guy swings a skateboard. That's Anthony Huber, who also has a record. It's not as bad as Rosenbaum's, but still the record. I don't really even though it's not good, I'm not gonna encourage it. It's not quite the same, and I just don't want people to die in general. But he does have a record for those who care. I'll let you look that up. Gage, I think Rosenkreuz also does, but as far as Anthony Huber, that's the first guy. That's the guy who swung a skateboard. And I want to also be semi-fair. All he saw was a guy running, everyone screaming, he shot a guy. All these kids are LARPing, and they all want to be heroes in their own mind. I'm not saying it's right to swing a fucking skateboard if someone is at the ground who has a gun. I also don't think that's smart. But in his head, he probably thought he was a hero or something. Like, he didn't know what happened. Not saying you should even be out there, because I don't think anyone should be out there. I don't care who you are. If I knew you personally, I would tell you not to go out there. If you're my son, if you're my niece, nephew, little cousin, whatever, I would say don't go out there. He was out there. He thought he was protesting, racial justice, whatever he thought. He was just out there. You're going to see, I'll show a little bit more of the video just to show some more expedition. You're going to see a lot of people who are just spectators. And he saw somebody, everyone's screaming, get him. Gets caught up in the moment, swings a skateboard LARPing, not really realizing, hey, this guy has a gun and is going to shoot you. Doesn't mean he should swung the damn skateboard. It was fucking stupid. Everyone behaved stupidly. Kyle shouldn't have been there in the first place. They should not have accosted him. That was ridiculous to accost him and chase him. They were chasing him with a Molotov. Looking at some of the exposition. Let's go back to this. I've kind of clipped on it a few times. But BLM is very organized. Look at this.
That's like in 30 minutes. I got like about 20 donations, all just real shit.
Different supplies. Right, this is a trash container, recycling container. You saw those supplies tossed in, and you see the other group of people drag these things out. So you don't know what the hell's going on there. Because there's a lot of organization. Let me get the name real quick. We have Reg Incognito. Reg A Incognito. So look out for Reg Incognito. Reg Incognito. And you can get the spelling and everything right. Look at this. Gasoline burning some cars. Stuff is getting smashed. But you got random people just spectating. I want to go also show something else. Look at this guy. This is what I mean about LARPing. I don't know what side he is on, but look at this guy. You have people out there. You have all sorts of people out there. And none of them should be out there because none of them know the ramifications of what they're doing. Just like the people who are cheering, oh, he's a hero, don't know the ramifications. Just like these people just burning shit. What does this have to do with racial justice, huh? Nothing. Nothing at all. A lot of these businesses that were burnt down were black businesses. I saw a lot of people saw that image of that car lot that was burnt down showing Black Lives Matter. And it didn't mean anything. I'm from Detroit. I actually commented on Twitter, one of the few posts on Twitter I have. Commented on Twitter, somebody was talking about the Detroit riots helped civil rights. Let me tell you something about the Detroit riots, right? One of the reasons I even exist is during the Detroit riots, my grandfather said black owned outside the lab he worked. That's not even mattering anymore, right? And they did not help the city. They destroyed the city. One of the many things that destroyed Detroit. It's a million things that happen, but that's one of the many things. So that happening everywhere across the country is not going to be a positive thing. It's not going to be a positive thing at all.
They got a grip of Antifa that's trying to get very organized to burn shit down. So,
okay, you hear what he said? I'm not sure if it shows on the stream.
Watch it from over here, man. You can't really be that close up.
You see these people skateboarding. Well, I know it was Anthony Hoover.
So between a certain part of a certain section of Black Lives Matter and maybe,
what he's saying.
I'm saying at least about 20 white dudes from Antifa, you can't get up close on the up on them, man.
You hear that? And you hear the stuff in the background.
They just made an example out of that guy.
Cars.
Trying to help him out.
They made an example out of him. Listen to what happened.
So the white dude I was just talking to, or whatever he is right here, he just got his phone slapped.
Sure.
He got his phone slapped out of him and socked at the same time. This dude right here, walking away. This dude right here got his phone slapped and blindsided.
So that's what happened because he was filming. So one thing I wanted to say, I broke that down. You heard him say something about the organization of Antifa. We've heard politicians deny Antifa, even though Black Lives Matter. And he said something about Black Lives Matter and Antifa organizing to burn things down. He said something about Antifa. He also said that there are those members of BLM and Antifa that you can't get in touch with or can't film that, and Antifa made an example. And we see that BLM is a part of this Act Blue. They gain concessions from the DNC platform. Now people will say, hey, it's a false claim that Black Lives Matter gives money to the DNC. I don't have evidence that they give money to the DNC, but I have evidence that they use a platform, Act Blue, that is specifically for democratic and progressive causes. So this is a platform that also funds for the DNC. That I can verify. So we have a lot of politicians who have used Black Lives Matter in attempt to get reelected or to get Trump. I don't know what they're thinking. I think they were just riding a wave. And maybe they didn't initially differentiate the group from the movement. But we've seen the DA in Portland dismiss charges. We've seen the mayor of Portland, Ted Wheeler. We've seen him completely throw out the U.S. government, throw out the federal government. And you say, well, was that relevant? What does that have to do with Kenosha? Well, we also know, even from the initial riots about George Floyd, that people are mobilized. So all of these communities where the DA is not pressing charges against rioters, those rioters get to mobilize. And we're seeing a lot of mobilization. Remember, the mayor of St. Paul on early nights of the George Floyd riot said,
but every single person we arrested last night, I'm told, was from out of state.
So these things have a convergent effect, and people come from out of town to these cities and tear these cities up. I think one of the biggest misnomers is that, these people are tearing up their own communities. We've seen people get kicked out of communities, black communities, white communities, because these people who are accosting these neighborhoods don't actually live there. They're just smashing shit up. And as you can see, there's a lot of people at these protests. They're not doing any damn thing. They're LARPing, wearing stop signs. You know what I mean? It's easy to paint all these protests like they're just all burning everything down. And there's a lot of that. Way too much of that. And you see there's a lot of that, but there's a lot of people who are just walking around who are just trying to LARP. Their radical ass teacher taught them about the 60s, and they're just trying to LARP. They think this is their moment. They're not even paying attention to the nuance of what's happening, and neither are people on either side, because either Kyle Rittenhouse is some hero, which he isn't, or he's a terrorist. He's a domestic terrorist, which he isn't. He's neither of those things. We have politicians who just totally dropped the ball. You saw things burning down. You saw people smashing things. You see in certain neighborhoods, they're yelling, "Wake up, motherfucker, wake up." You see at certain restaurants, people are being yelled at, screamed at, telling themselves they need to raise the fist. You also see police, black police, being yelled at by white women and white men, and yelled at with racial slurs and told they're a disgrace to their race. You also see some police and a lot of police who are at these protests taking advantage and spraying mace into people's faces. You just see chaos and bedlam. And the only way that's going to stop is if we stop it. And a lot of that is not by being radicalized. Like I said, Kyle Rittenhouse should have never been there. He's 17 years old. What was he going to do? What was he going to do by himself? He got chased around. He had people come after him. He ended up shooting them. And he ended up shooting in the area where a lot of other people, and this is going to be a political crime. There's no guarantee he's going to beat all these charges. He may not. I think he's actually safe with all the murder charges, believe it or not, because I think they were all self-defense. We saw Rosenbaum throw a Molotov at him. We saw Huber throw a skateboard or swing a skateboard at him. We saw, and I can't pronounce Gage's last name, but we saw that, or we know that he had a handgun. We saw his gun. I didn't really go in depth with that. I think there's a lot of videos who've shown that a lot better. I wanted to show the other details and that there were other charges that Kyle could be guilty of, even with the self-defense pleas and self-defense possibility for the things that we have on video. But, you know, if a lot of governments did not abstain from responsibility, he would not have felt the need to go out there. So even though I don't think he should have been out there, I would be lying if I didn't understand why people were out there. As I show in the top of the video, the Papa John's owner, I have a family to feed. A lot of people are just sick of losing their businesses, losing their livelihood. They were already shut down by the coup, and now people are burning down their stuff, and the media is just saying it's a mostly peaceful protest even when things are on fire. So people are just fed up and tired, and they want to protect businesses. And the damn police, as useless as they are, I'm not a defund the police guy. I'm a reform the police guy, and I think that this BLM unfortunately destroys that because it doesn't give people a chance to have that conversation and to come up with reform. But when you got the damn police who are looking at citizens saying, "We're glad you're here because you citizens can protect us from other citizens," what the fuck is the point of the police? This is where you actually get the defund the police movement, at least from an anarchist standpoint. And I'm not an anarchist, but I understand anarcho-capitalism a little bit when you see stuff like this. Because, like, what's the point of the state if the police are happy to see citizens protect them? And the police were not there. As you see, that area was being accosted and having stuff destroyed. Police were not there. Then you see Kyle get chased into it. But the police are glad to see a militia. They're glad to see a 17-year-old because they're not willing to do their own damn job.
We appreciate you guys. We really do.
Whether it's because they don't want to do it or the police chief or a politician, is going on in all these cities that the damn state, whether it's the police or the military, have not protected citizens. And in the case of the Democratic Party, they've at bare minimum enabled a lot of violence instead of shouting it down. They're only going to shout it down now because it's bad for business. It's a bad look. It's bad in the polls.
But guess what? The rioting has to stop. Chris, as you know and I know, it's showing up in the polling. It's showing up in focus groups.
And all I'm seeing is more radicalization. He's a white supremacist. He's a hero. He killed commies. God damn it, these are people. And it's only leading to more radicalization, only leading to more death, only leading to more destruction. And that's not what I'm about. On this channel, throughout these videos, I said I want to prevent a race war, prevent a civil war, and prevent a world war. And to be quite frank, I think it's too late for all of those. I think all we can do is try to de-radicalize all these things and de-radicalize this world war, which is going to take a lot of work. De-radicalize this race war and de-radicalize the civil war. But there's too many people who are invested in it. This is nothing to cheer on. This is a tragedy because people are dead and people are getting shot in the streets. Yeah, Rosenbaum is nobody to cheer over. Shit. Hell no. But shots were fired and every shot needs to be accounted for. Speaking of which, a little bit more about the Jacob Blake video before closing. In the video, you see he reaches for something. You see the reports that show that he had a knife. But he was also shot 7 times in the back. And I know that other police departments, I know the Los Angeles Police Department, I saw on Clay Travis, somebody told him that each shot needs to be accounted for. So it's a chance that they may say, and I'm not sure how the Kenosha Police Department or Wisconsin's police system works. Every police system has a different standard. But if they are up to that standard, and if that is relevant legally, each shot will have to be accounted for. So it's very possible that even though he did grab a knife and did attack police, he had a history of violence, he had a history of attacking police, he had a history of a lot of, despicable things in and of itself, sexual assaults, and it was a domestic violence call. And he was tased. You know what I mean? There are a lot of details against this. He was tased, but that doesn't mean every single shot was justified. It may not mean every single shot was even justified legally. So that needs to be accounted for on both sides. Anyone who is a bleeding heart leftist who just sees this as another racial killing needs to realize, listen, the police were apprehending a very violent person who had a weapon on them. Anyone who's on the right and is completely just talking about how much of a felon and how bad of a guy Blake was needs to realize that every shot does need to be accounted for. We saw out in Arizona, Ryan Whitaker, he was killed. He had a gun in his hand. He opened his own door. He didn't know it was going to be the police. When he turned around to put his gun down, he was shot. Police reform is something that's necessary to me. Unfortunately, Black Lives Matter is actually killing their own argument. They're causing damage and destruction, and they need to be stopped. But I still think a lot of what needs to be changed still needs to be changed. I don't necessarily think Jacob Blake needs to be lionized. I don't think anyone needs to be lionized. I think people need nuance. And I do think some force was necessary to contain Jacob Blake. I don't necessarily think all of that force was necessary when I look at all the details. I think Kyle Rittenhouse is going to have a lot of trauma, even if he beats all these charges, which I don't think that he will. I think some of them will stick. I think he'll beat the murder charges, but the other stuff, I think he'll even beat the attempted murder, but the endangerment charges, there's no guarantees. So, what do you think? Am I outright deplorable with internalized racism because I think that Kyle Rittenhouse defended himself and that the Jacob Blake shooting had other factors outside of race? Or am I a radical BLM or Antifa member because I think Kyle Rittenhouse should have never been out there in the first place? And I think while the Jacob Blake shooting had other factors outside of race and a lot of justifiable factors, there's still a chance that the police went too far. So let me know what you think in the comments. I would love to have a very civil discussion. If you like the video, please like the video. If you're willing to share and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. And even if you do none of these things, thank you for watching and thank you for your time.